there's an awareness that happens when we're having these conversations, and a sense of hope as well, because there is movement in this area. There is hope in this area. There are things that can be done in this area and learned. And so a lot of people are just like, thank you. There's something we can do, and that gives them a little bit of hope. And I see that in everyone's eyes.
Hello, we are here with Queen Latifah and Tejal Vishalpura from Novo Nordisk. Welcome. How's your Cannes Lion going so far?
Fantastic. Day 2.
Love that. Well, first of all, just take me back to the beginning of how this partnership came to be. What made you all want to partner together?
I mean, it's been amazing partnering with Queen Latifah. We've been working with her for 3 years now. And this obesity space is so important to Novo Nordisk. Our mission and purpose is to defeat serious chronic diseases. And when we think about defeating diseases like obesity, I mean, we've spent decades unlocking the biology, unlocking the science of treatment. But with something like obesity, we knew very quickly we needed to really bust all of these barriers, these cultural beliefs that held people back from seeking the care that they need. And we needed to bust the shame and blame and stigma. And we knew we could not do that alone. And we wanted to partner with someone who has amazing purpose, respect, your voice and your authenticity is incredible. And so we're just so incredibly excited to have partnered with Queen.
What drew you to want to work with Novo Nordisk about this cause?
I think what drew me to Novo Nordisk to work with this cause about obesity was just that it was about breaking down the stigma and the shame. It wasn't about selling anything. It wasn't about promoting anything. It was strictly about talking to people about obesity and what it is and what it isn't. Educating folks out there, educating doctors out there, learning from doctors, learning from people, and kind of relating it to my own family and friends. People I know who are experiencing it, or people, things I've been through in life. It was very relatable in that sense. And so I thought, why not? Why not? Because this is very important to people and how they feel about life. It affects over 100 million Americans. It affects almost 2 billion people globally. And so this is something that, is really important to how we live life and longevity, as we continue to talk about, wellness and longevity and anti-aging and all these things. There's no way you can sort of discuss those things without addressing obesity. And then that comes along with all of the wrong opinions about what obesity actually is as a disease and how people think about it. So to reframe that whole discussion was something I was very interested in.
Absolutely. And what are some of those main misconceptions about obesity that you've found through your research and your time?
One of them is that willpower will take care of it, or that someone needs to just get in the gym, or what it actually looks like. You may think someone who may carry a little more body weight may be obese. It's not necessarily true. Someone who is actually appears to be more thin might actually be obese. So it's really something that you need to discuss with your doctor. And not being afraid to seek medical attention is one of the first steps. So relating obesity to being an actual health condition, an actual disease, is one thing that people, I don't think, were thinking about. They think, because everyone's so concerned with image and what we look like. And so they connect these two things, and they're not connected like that necessarily. So that's why it's important to start having the conversations, start talking about it with your friends, your family, and really talk about it with your healthcare professional. And I think more healthcare professionals, more doctors are becoming more educated themselves. And so now they're able to offer better care to patients. And people shouldn't be afraid to seek healthcare. That would be kind of shameful, if you were. So we need to remove that shame away. Like if you are feeling something or thinking something, you should be able to talk to a professional about it and get good advice.
What is your main goal and your main message that you're bringing to the festival this year? What do you want audiences to take away?
Our main goal, this is our inaugural Cannes Lions for Novo Nordisk. Not a lot of pharmaceutical companies here. I think what's important for us is that awareness of obesity as a disease. It's so prevalent, and really helping consumers have a collective conversation, have collective empowerment in terms of how they talk about, see this disease. And so for Cannes Lion, we're here to be inspired and to learn from all the best creatives all over the world. But we're also here to inspire in terms of how we've uniquely tackled obesity as a disease, build awareness around the stigma and the biases that society holds, how we educated society and built bridges across very polarizing conversations and myths and mistruths, and how we're really opening up a collective conversation. And so we're in the zeitgeist now as an organization, as obesity, but that took 2 decades and years to really unlock that.
Absolutely. When it comes to connecting with audiences on this subject, what have you seen, Queen Latifah? What have you seen when you've spoken to people about this, when you're up on stage maybe giving a panel? What are you seeing when you're seeing people react to breaking down some of these myths?
I see a lot of reactions. I see some smiles. I see a sense of relief from a lot of people. I see tears sometimes because I see people who can relate to this subject matter, who have gone through things in their own life, who know people who have, or who feel maybe even a little guilt over something that they might have said or an approach that they might have taken with one of their loved ones that wasn't necessarily meant to be hurtful. They thought they were being helpful, but they realized in our conversation that that was actually hurtful and it did not help the situation. So there's an awareness that happens when we're having these conversations, and a sense of hope as well. Because there is movement in this area. There is hope in this area. There are things that can be done in this area and learned. And so a lot of people are just like, thank you. There's something we can do, and that gives them a little bit of hope. And I see that in everyone's eyes. So these are good.
What does it mean to you to be, kind of inspiring that real change in the world and seeing that direct impact of your work? And this goes for you as well, Tejal.
I'll start.
Okay.
So for me personally, look, I grew up in a rural farming village in India, raised by my grandmother. No running water, no electricity, no health care. What this means for me is an immense privilege and a responsibility to work at a company that's bringing meaningful science to the world. And it's a deep passion and purpose of the organization, but also of mine, to bring that science to as many people as can benefit. And so how do we truly bring cutting edge science all over the world? And obesity, we all know, we either have it, we know someone who has it, we care about someone who has it, and the personal struggle is very real. And how do we help bring them out of the shadows, bring the conversation out of the shadows into the light, where we can talk about the facts related to a disease, not myths and assumptions.
It's been amazing to see the impact of this campaign. People come up to me about it. Actually, people have been coming up to me from the very beginning. From the moment I became involved with it, people you and I know have been asking me about it. Is this real? Like, is something going to happen? And I'm like, this is a real thing. This is going to continue. We're going to keep working on this. And it's actually being addressed head on in a loving, positive way, if you will. Not so much in a stigmatizing kind of way, or getting caught up in getting into the weeds or getting so specific and don't use this word, use that word. Listen, at the end of the day, when you are living with obesity, if you know someone who is living with obesity, it's a real thing. And it has to be addressed. And being someone who lost a cousin to the effects of obesity, who is way too young, in her early 30s, with kids, that means something to me. To know that there's maybe something that could have been done about it or done differently, to know that she could have been respected in a different way, that she could have lived her life in a different way had people considered this the disease it was, the health condition it truly was that she faced, and really cared for her in a different way and respected her and her family in a different way, then I think things would have been different. I'd be laughing with my cousin right now, you know, one of the most loving, funny people in our family. So, you know, it's real to me, and it's real to a lot of people. And everyone doesn't know the way to properly handle it or address it or even define it. And so the fact that we are saying, hey, we don't know all these things, but there are answers now. You know, there are some answers that you can use, I can use, and there's ways that we can be a little, maybe a little fortified in our own sense of self, because, you know, sometimes we project things, sometimes we're concerned with ourselves and our own insecurities, and that has an effect on other people. But now there's ways you can kind of like be okay and say, oh, okay, it's not just me. This is bigger than me, you know. I can reach out. I can get some information. I can start a conversation. That wasn't there before. It wasn't, to me, addressed in that specific way. So I think this has been great.
Absolutely. You're making a real difference. I know your cousin is very proud.
I hope so. I hope so.
I know that this partnership has already evolved over the course of a couple of years, but where do you hope to see it go next?
Where we see it go next is actually what Queen Latifah just talked about, which is the relationship of obesity to now more than 60 different diseases. It's a global epidemic impacting 100 million Americans, but more than 2 billion people worldwide. And it's only increasing, so we have to break the cycle, and that starts with empowering people to get the care that they need. And where it's going next, specifically the role that obesity plays in cardiovascular disease and heart health. And so we're working with Queen Latifah on the heart of the issue as our next campaign.
Amazing. Anything you can tease about that?
We're getting to the heart of the issue.
Yes.
Aptly named.
Yeah, we're getting to the heart of the issue. And as a woman, we are affected by the heart more than probably anyone. And so this is going to be one of the things that helps us, for sure. So I'm just happy that we're getting to the next things and really continuing to try to educate and create new ways of making our lives longer, healthier, happier lives, if that's the key. If I can say it that way.
No, I think you talked about women, but I think what's really important to us is inclusive obesity care and where people can go with their physicians, their healthcare professionals, to feel seen, to feel heard, to not be shamed when they do go to people who can help them. And we're really working with the Black communities, Hispanic communities, women's health, on how we can really look at populations that are disproportionately impacted. The other thing we look at is how our role in preventing obesity to begin with, and how we handle nutrition inequity and food insecurity, and all of these ecosystems that contribute to obesity to begin with.